Okay, there we go. Hi, and thank you so much for joining us tonight, this evening, to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is sleep. I'm Tracy Dwight, the Community Engagement Manager at DAO Labs, and I'm really excited to be here in collaboration tonight with Dr. Nell to talk about some ways that we can achieve better sleep through Chinese medicine. So before we get started, let me ask you this. Are you looking for better sleep? Who isn't, right? Mm-hmm. And so we'd love to hear what kind of sleep issues you guys are having. So if you can leave those in the comments or ask or let us know through the Zoom app, that would be great. And we'll try to address those. So let me introduce Dr. Nell. She is a licensed acupuncturist in Beverly Hills, and she specializes in post-surgical rehabilitation and lifestyle issues. So that means like athletic recovery, weight loss, cosmetic acupuncture, stuff like that. She also does some consulting work as well as teaching. She's a DAO Labs Wellness Ambassador. And she loves living a fit life in Southern California and enjoys helping others feel empowered to do the same. So again, please leave your comments, your questions in the Facebook Live, and we'll try to get to them all at the end. We'd like to really open this up to conversation. But for now, I will let Dr. Nell take it away and get through some of this great information that she has.
Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. First, want to thank Tracy and DAO Labs. This is such an exciting opportunity for me. Something I'm really passionate about is sleep. We're going to talk about a lot tonight in a short period of time, but all really good, useful information. And definitely participate, leave those questions. We want to answer as much as possible and get you guys whatever kind of help and answers you're looking for. So the basics of what we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about, what is insomnia, because there's a lot of common misconceptions with that, and how common are sleep issues really? Why is sleep so important? There's a lot of myths around sleep. How does sleep work? Chinese medicine and sleep, there is a different perspective, and you can get a lot of help with that. And just really good practical tips for better sleep, things that you could implement tonight if you wanted to. And I know some of you on the East Coast or in, that central time zone, it's getting close to that time. So we'll keep it brief. And then acupuncture and insomnia, and Chinese herbs and insomnia, of course, because we're talking with wonderful DAO Labs who has some awesome new sleep formulas. So first, what is insomnia? So 3 million cases are reported every year in the US, but I'm telling you, it's a lot more than that. People have this idea that, oh, I have insomnia, that just means I have a hard time falling asleep. But there's a lot of different classifications. So you could have that difficulty falling asleep. You could be waking up all the time, waking up a few times. You could be waking up early and then not able to fall back asleep, or waking up not feeling rested. And with Chinese medicine, there are different patterns that go along with this. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later. So again, how common are these sleep issues? So many people don't even realize that they have a sleep issue. It's very commonly seen in clinic, but not usually a chief complaint. And what I mean by that is I have patients who come in with low back pain, and it comes up during their initial eval that they 4 or 5 times a week can't fall asleep for a few hours. And I think people develop this new level of normal. So they're like, oh, that's just me. I've always been that way. I don't require that much sleep. I wake up 4 or 5 times a night, or I have a lot of dreams and I wake not feeling rested. And people get used to that being how they operate. But it's not necessarily healthy. And certainly, even if you're functional, you're not at your optimal level. And that's really what we want to do, right? So with my treatment plans with my patients, which I'll talk about a little bit later, sleep improvement always comes into that because it's such an easy thing that, again, you can implement right away. And although it's not necessarily the main cause of the issue, I'm not saying your poor sleep is what's causing your back pain. It can definitely be a contributing factor to how long it's taking you to heal. So these are some things that a lot of times people will come to me for, and they might not have any idea that sleep can factor in. So weight loss, cognitive function, beauty or cosmetic issues, athletic recovery, emotional balance, stress management. And I'm going to come back to this a little bit later because I'm sure some of you are like, wait, hold on a second, sleep can help with that. So we'll return to that. Physiology of sleep, I want to keep this super brief. You guys aren't here for a lecture, but you always hear about these sleep cycles. And, oh, there's these stages, and we have, you know, non-REM and REM, and REM stands for rapid eye movement. Almost gets talked about as if the goal is to just get into that REM sleep and stay there as long as possible. But you do need all of these different stages to your sleep. And it's not as simple as, oh, it's 90 minutes and then I go into the next cycle and then I go into the next cycle. You kind of fluctuate a little bit. And depending on your unique physiology, you're going to stay in different stages for longer. And regulating that is really important because these very important processes are not done when we're awake necessarily, or they're not done to their full effect when we're awake. And they can be done while we're sleeping. So that's really why we want to optimize sleep. So there's a lot of myths about sleep. And I get this all the time with patients. And I will say when I was in college, I'm like, I only need 4 hours of sleep. That's all I need to function. And that's simply not true. I may have been able to walk around and talk to people and get to class or the gym or whatever I needed to do, but certainly was not functioning at an optimal level. So a lot of times people hear that you need less sleep as you age. And this is one of my favorites because there are a lot of studies that teenagers, for example, need much more sleep than adults. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because they are still developing. So yes, you could argue that someone who's 60 requires less sleep than a 15-year-old, but the only reason that that would be true is because less is expected of that 60-year-old than that 15-year-old. And if you do not want to be that 60-year-old that less is expected of, if you want to function at an optimal level, you need more than 5 hours of sleep. So a lot of times the older population will go to bed early and wake up super, super early, and they're able to function. And part of that might be because they're sleeping based on the Chinese organ clock, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. And you can get some good sleep in a shorter period of time, depending on how regular your sleep is, the quality of your sleep. But it is a myth that you need less sleep as time goes on. Might be able to get by, certainly won't be optimal. The thought that you can make up for lost sleep on the weekend. Now, this is something I love to do. I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning, except for on Sunday. And that's my day to sleep in for a couple hours. And I like to tell myself that, okay, I can get back to it on Monday. You might feel a little bit better, but it's not because you actually caught up on the sleep. It's because you felt the difference of what it means to actually have a restful night's sleep. So that doesn't mean it saved you from the week of killing yourself. It just means that, oh, your body's functioning at an optimal level on Sunday. Now that's great. So imagine if we could get you that quality every day of the week, what your productivity would look like, what your mindset would look like, how you're feeling, how you're recovering. And so another one is that sleep and health issues are unrelated. You know, there are studies that even diabetes can be affected by the amount and the quality of sleep that you have. And again, going back to those important things that happen while you're sleeping, you know, cortisol going down, your body not being in a flight or fight state, being able to actually recover. Those things are very important. And so, of course, that's going to affect your health. And the way, you know, our society is now, we're a society of chronic conditions, a lot of autoimmune conditions. And a lot of the research has been done on autoimmune being affected by your recovery specifically. And sleep is going to be key with that. And the idea that some people need less sleep than others. And that goes into what we talked about with you needing less sleep as you age. Yes, maybe you could get by because less is going to be expected of you. You know, less is expected of a non-athlete rather than an athlete. But you have to think about your individual physiology, your goals, what you need, what you want, and how do I want to be at my best? And so you're not necessarily going to need less sleep than the person next to you. It's about how great of a day you want to have the next day. So the Chinese medicine organ clock, because we're going to talk a little bit about how Chinese medicine views sleep, insomnia, sleep issues. And this was fascinating to me when I first learned about it. And I kind of played around a little bit with this. So the two areas I really want to talk about, first explain that every organ with Chinese medicine has a specific time. So in a perfect world, you would be engaging in certain activities, or your energy level would be matching based on this organ clock. So a really key time that I want to talk about is this liver gallbladder time. So this 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. And this is a time when, if you were going to pick any 4 hours to be asleep, these are the 4 golden hours you want to be asleep. And the reason for that is, you know, where I was talking about liver detox, let's just use that phrase because it's a phrase we're very familiar with. That's a time your body wants to be detoxing. It wants to be resting. Have you ever noticed that? Because I get a lot of patients who say this, oh, I try to go bed at like 11, 11:30, but if I don't get to bed on time, suddenly I'm up until like after 1. Well, the reason is because you're in that liver gallbladder time. So if you try to get to bed before that 11 o'clock hits, and this is based on your time zone and what you're conditioned to. So if you take a 1-day trip to the West Coast, you're still on your time zone. Just like when you have jet lag, you have to factor that in. So it can't be perfect, but be mindful of it. And if you start paying attention to where is my energy at this time, you will absolutely notice, you know, teenagers do this too. They're like, oh, I'm staying up until midnight, and suddenly I'm up until the wee hours of the morning. So being in bed before 11, if at all possible, can really help with that quality of sleep. So the next slide. So we talked a little bit about how Chinese medicine goes into pattern diagnosis. And 2 patterns that I really want to talk about, because we'll go a little bit into herbs with this as well, is blood deficiency and yin deficiency. We won't get too deep into this because, I mean, shoot, you could go to school for 4 or 6 years for this. But blood deficiency versus yin deficiency are 2 things that are often at that root cause of insomnia. So just some differentiating factors, and these might sound very familiar to some of you, but blood deficiency is going to be difficulty falling asleep. So that person who's getting into bed, feeling restless, okay, I'm not too hot, I'm not too cold, but I just can't fall asleep. Whereas yin deficiency is going to be that frequent waking or the difficulty staying asleep. And the yin deficiency brings the night sweats. So that uncomfortable, restless sleeper, you're waking up in the middle of the night, you're throwing the covers off because you're sweating. That's more on the yin deficiency side. And they can both lead to this dryness. Blood deficiency, you might have blurry vision, dizziness, dry eyes and skin because there's not enough blood to nourish everything. Whereas with yin deficiency, it's because you've had all that heat and you've been sweating, and that burns off all your fluids. So now you're all dry. So either of these, you're not super comfortable and you're cranky because you're not sleeping. So I wanted to give you guys some good tips for better sleep. Not everything is going to be specific to Chinese medicine. You know, I would love it if everyone wanted to go and see their local acupuncturist and get on some herbs immediately, but I want you guys to have things you could do today or tomorrow and implement right away. So sleeping at a regular time, you know, talking about that Chinese organ clock, those things kind of go hand in hand. So just like when you do an activity so much that you have muscle memory with it, it becomes easier. It's not as difficult. You don't have to think about it as much. Your body knows, okay, this is what this time is for. I'm going to get into this wind down time. It makes it a lot easier on the body rather than having a fluctuating sleep cycle. Again, paying attention to that organ clock. So please, if all possible, in bed before 11 and sleep at least till after 3. And avoid watching the clock and no screens. Those will both turn our brains on so much. We've all played that game of lying in bed. I can't fall asleep. Okay, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 6 hours. Okay, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 5 hours. And it just keeps the wheels turning in our brain and does not allow us to go into that parasympathetic that we need to hit in order to feel really comfortable and go to sleep and rest and recover. And looking at screens, this is probably the main thing I tell patients on a first or second visit. I know we all have emails and we all have text messages and we all have Instagram and there's a lot going on, but looking at a computer screen or a phone screen right before bed really, really wrecks your sleep. And, you know, there are apps that you can get, which are great, that change the blue lighting on either your laptop or on your phone. But still, the activities that we're engaging in are still ramping up our nervous system. They're still pumping hormones into our body that are not really conducive for sleep. So what I try to get patients started on is half hour before bed, no screens, but ideal is 2 hours. So don't freak out about that. Start at 15 minutes if you have to. Everyone's like 2 hours. So start at 15 minutes if you can and just try to increase it and you will see a significant difference. Having a wind down routine. So this goes hand in hand with sleeping at a regular time because your body gets conditioned that, oh, okay, I'm going in, I'm setting up my clothes for tomorrow morning. I'm packing my bag. I'm making sure my food's set up in the refrigerator. I'm brushing my teeth. Doing that routine before bed is conditioning your body that, okay, it's time to wind down. It's time to sleep. And a main thing that I like to do is to control the first and last hour of your day. We have a lot of hours in the day that we might not have any control over, whether it's we're dealing with work, we're running around, we're running errands, taking care of kids, our pets, whatever it may be. Things come up that we can't control and we are expected to handle, and our body is trying not to have too much of a stress response to. But if you can just say, all right, my day is my day, but what I'm going to do is my first and last hour, I am going to own. I'm always going to have a plan. I'm going to have my wind down routine and I'm going to have my wake up routine, whether that's listening to a motivational video, whether that's meditating, whether that's reading, whether that's just like, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm not going to look at my phone for the first hour. When you have something really good to wake up to, it's easier to get up and have a solid first hour and that last hour to wind down and get into your sleep. And then acupuncture and herbs, because sometimes even doing these things, you'll see a difference, but there's an actual pathology going on and you want to be able to get help with that too. Let's go to the next one. So something I like to talk about with patients because, you know, there's a common misconception when it comes to herbs versus Western meds. And there are a lot of times when Western meds are absolutely necessary, but they have a very different effect. And I think, you know, Tracy mentioned at the beginning, my thing is all about empowering patients. I don't want to see patients, you know, forever in a day. I want everyone out there to have the knowledge to really own their own health. And so if it is your decision to take a Western medication or to, you know, have herbs as well, or however you want to do it, at the very least, I think, you know, my responsibility as a doctor of this medicine is to give you the information so you can make an informed decision. So with Ambien or a sleep medication versus Chinese herbs, Ambien is going to be like the hammer. It is going to come in, act quickly, and you are going to be asleep. You know, you probably don't want to take it before you're driving home. Chinese herbs, it's going to be a different story. It's going to be more mild. So you can take a dose, you know, on your way home. It's not going to knock you out. And some of the formulas we're going to talk about are formulas that you take during the day, because to look at, you know, the end point on here, treating the underlying cause of the imbalance and not the symptom. So this underlying cause is all about creating that balance and that harmony within your body on a physiological level. So yes, it is going to be more mild. It's going to take more time, but it's also going to be much more sustainable for you. And the side effects of taking herbs are often positive. So you might be taking a formula because you want to sleep better. But then you'll come in and you'll tell your acupuncturist, oh, you know what's weird? My memory's gotten so much better and I can study so much more and I'm not as irritable as I was and I'm not walking around during the day just feeling exhausted and edgy. And the main example that I give people in differentiating a Western medication from Chinese herbs is the example of a runner. And so runners, picture someone racing down the street. It would be very easy to just trip this person and stop them from running. And that's what you have with your Western medication. They shut down a pathway, or they like throw a huge roadblock in it, and it's quick and it's hard, but that's certainly effective. Chinese herbs are the opposite of that. They are going to promote a natural pathway. So it's like teaching someone how to run. You know, they're going to need to have to want to run. They're going to have to be a little more patient. But once they know how to do it, they know how to do it forever. And that's really the biggest difference, and why those herbs are more sustainable and a better long-term option for people. So there's 2 really great formulas out with DAO Labs right now. And obviously, just like their other formulas, are based on traditional Chinese medicine, mental tranquility and physical tranquility. So a lot of what we were talking about with the yin and blood deficiency, because the mental tranquility is going to be more of a qi and blood deficiency, and physical tranquility is going to be that yin deficiency. So that restless, irritable, throwing the sheets off of you, sweating at night. Whereas the mental tranquility, you're like thinking, you're stressed out, you know, might have memory issues during the day. And this mental tranquility, I have to throw in, it's also called the student's formula. So students love this formula around midterms because it really helps modulate that. It helps you stay more focused in the day, keeps your mind sharp, and then allows your mind to quiet down at night, because that is the natural cycle. And herbs are all about regulating that natural cycle for what your body actually really wants. Let's go. Okay. And lastly, just a little bit on acupuncture and sleep, because I did say we would come back to this. I have a lot of patients who come into my practice for, let's say, weight loss, but it's really about not just the first thing you would think of. So, oh, okay, I need my cognitive function better. I'm just going to do more crossword puzzles and I am going to drill myself more. Well, if you look at that from a Chinese medical perspective, you are burning the substance by doing those activities repeatedly. Yes, it might help with that muscle memory, it might help with your routine, but you need those vital fluids in order to keep doing these behaviors. And when is your body at its most peaceful, in a state of the most recovery? In your sleep. So in order for weight loss to happen, if you are only sleeping 4 hours a night, your body is going to be very resistant to that, because it's like, oh, I need this weight. I need this energy to hold on to because I'm not getting it at night. Your cortisol is going to be through the roof. It's not going to allow you to get that weight off. Cognitive function, same thing. You're burning through it, not allowing your brain to recover, to produce the hormones it wants to produce in order to be healthy. Beauty, your skin is certainly going to get affected. If you think dark circles are just genetic, there is absolutely a sleep component with that and a recovery component with that. Athletic recovery, you can work out as much as you want. If you don't give your body a chance to get rid of that lactic acid, to regenerate that ATP, to allow your muscles, just like your mind, to rest, not going to be able to get up for that next event. Sports medicine 10 years ago was all about pushing an athlete to the edge for performance. Now it is all about recovery. How can we get someone into the best state of recovery so that they perform at an optimal level? And sleep's a part of that. And emotional balance and stress management. So talking about, oh, I'm one of those people who can make it through on 4 hours of sleep, but you're crabby and want to rip people's heads off. That's not really optimally functional for you. So who knows what an incredible mood or what type of stress management or mindset shift that you would end up having if your sleep was optimal. Oh, great. So now we're at the questions portion. I think Tracy's going to jump in because she's been tracking all of our questions for us.
Yeah, we have a couple of really great questions. Well, first of all, thank you for that. That was really helpful and really educational, especially the sleep myths, because I feel like I always hear people say like, oh, I just don't need that much sleep, or my husband is like the king of missing his bedtime and then like being up until 3 a.m. He's like, well, I fell asleep on the couch, and then he just like has a hard time re-sleeping. So so thank you for sharing that with us. We do have a question about what does it do to your sleep, or what do you recommend if you're up in the middle of the night and it's not because of something that you necessarily have control over, like you have kids or you have a dog or you have some like third party waking you up? What do you recommend in that situation?
So I would definitely say if it's something that's planned, it's a little bit easier. But in general, the idea is whatever time you're actually going to be able to be asleep, to make that as optimal as possible. Because yeah, if you have to get up and breastfeed, or if you have a new puppy at home, or if you have a job that you're on call for, some of the people who have the worst sleep issues are EMTs, because they are in this constant state of fight or flight. And then when they do get to rest and they're doing an overnight shift, they're constantly waking. So it's about getting your body into the most optimal level of sleep that you can during those periods. And if it's possible to time it so you can kind of play with your sleep cycles a little bit, like that 90 minutes, that can make a difference too. So like knowing, okay, I'm going to sleep for 3 hours, because in a perfect world, that would be about 2 sleep cycles, and I'm not going to be as groggy when I'm waking. That's helpful as well. But doing whatever you can, herb wise, acupuncture wise, supplement wise, to make sure that your sleep is in a good state when you are asleep.
Sure. And can you combine, like, let's say you do have a job where you're like on nights, or you have kind of shorter breaks. Can you combine like 3 90-minute cycles in different parts of the day to make up for that? Or do you really want all of that sleep at once?
No, so you can. There's actually a lot of research that as humans, we function better on a European schedule, which would be, like 6 hours of sleep at night and then an hour and a half in the afternoon. We do have a significant cortisol dip around 1 o'clock. So, if you do have to break it up, that's great. What I will say though, is if you're doing the nap thing, it needs to be less than 30 minutes or more than that hour and a half. Because when you're in that hour period, you're in the middle of that sleep cycle, and that's when you're going to get up feeling groggy, feeling awful. So doing a nice quick nap, there's even been studies as short as like 5-10 minutes can help with, giving you a little bit more energy, but no more than 30 unless you're going to go over that hour and a half.
Got it. And can you talk a little bit more about the formulas? Like if you're taking the formulas for sleep that you talked about and that Dell Labs offers, how long would it take to work? Like when would people expect to see results?
Okay. It's definitely different for everyone, but these are tonic formulas. So you're not, again, it's not like taking an Ambien where you're going to take it tonight. You're going to be like, wow, I had this amazing sleep. However, if you're really deficient, you might have an immediate effect. And it's going to take a little bit of time to build that in your body. And you'll probably start seeing like those positive side effects that I spoke about even sooner. Insomnia is not an easy thing, especially if you have, true insomnia where you're saying, oh, I've been like this my entire life. It does take some time to bring you back to an actual level of normal and not your new level of normal. But a lot of times people will feel effects right away, especially during the day, and their quality of life. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? I don't see anything else on Facebook, and I think we've got the Zoom questions answered. So we just want to talk a little bit about the 2 formulas that Dell Labs just recently launched within the last month. We're really excited about these formulas. They're super powerful. Everyone in our office is sleeping better, and we like all have stories to tell about like our sleep and our spouse's sleep. So as a mom of 2 young kids, we're definitely like, I feel like we're recovering from just the sleepless nights that we've experienced for the last couple of years. So we want to share this, and we really want people who are struggling with sleep to have the opportunity to try these formulas. So we have a special code, which is Dr. Nell. if you want to use that for 20% off of your order through Thursday, July 29th. And then I just also want to point out that we have a 100% happiness guarantee on these formulas. So if you get the product, like Nell said, it might not work right away and it will be gentle. So if you're used to Western medications where like you take something for 3 days and all of a sudden you're better, this is going to treat the underlying cause of the problem. It's going to treat those imbalances. So you might have to take it for, you know, a couple of weeks. Most of the people that I've talked to, I'm not sure about your experience, Nell, notice some effect right away, or they might go off of it and then be like, oh, actually, I think that was working for me. I'm going to try that again. So we just really encourage, like, try the product, give it a try, like, see how it works for you. Use it for 30 days. They're sold in containers, like canisters. You can check them out on our website, which is DAOLabs.com. One canister is about 30 days worth of doses. So try it for 30 days. And if you're not sleeping better, we'll give you a full refund. We want you to sleep better. We want this product to help you as much as it's helped us and as much as it's helped some of our customers. So
also, Tracy, like, they're great, what I call medicine cabinet formulas. You know, so there are a lot of formulas that, okay, you might start this because you're having trouble sleeping. You might, you know, be like, oh, okay, I'm going to have the mental tranquility formula because I'm having a hard time with that. But that mental tranquility formula is a great formula to take if, you know, you need to study for an exam, or you have, you know, a seminar that you need to go to, or a meeting that you need to focus in. These are not single-use formulas. They're really incredible for what DAO has made them into. But it's good to know that, especially if you go and see an acupuncturist, you might get prescribed these formulas for, you know, 5 different pattern diagnoses. So they're great to just have in your medicine cabinet. I have a lot of formulas like that, like the emotional balance. But yeah, it's good to just have on hand. So even if you're not feeling a difference with one, you want to try the other, they do have that 100% back happiness guarantee, which I love that it's called that. It makes me smile every time I say it. But just keep that in mind, you know, they're good to have in your cabinet and they're so mild, you're not going to hurt yourself with them. So they're good to try out for different things. For
sure. And then we did have a question if DAO Labs has ever thought about bottling these and selling them pre-made. So if you're, I wish I had a canister with me. I don't. Next time I will. But if you try these herbs, so like I said, they come in a little canister and there's a scoop, and a scoop is like what we call 1 dose. You put it in a cup and then you add either cold or room temperature water, and it's got kind of an effervescent like aspect to it. So it dissolves really easily, and you can bring it super easily on the go with you too. Like if you're traveling and you want it on an airplane, you know, just bring a bottle of water and you can dump it in the water and kind of shake it around a little bit. But we tried to make them like really just easy grab and go. So but no, I haven't thought about bottling them. Maybe the founders have. I don't know if you have an opinion on that now. I've never seen like herbs like vitamin water.
No, fresh is always better. It would be great for convenience, and you know, then we could like put them in every Earth bar and it would be wonderful and trendy. But
yeah,
then we'd be selling them for $10 a bottle, and that's not what we're doing. So I think, you know, fresh is good. Even when you're juicing, when you're doing anything natural, the fresher the better. Herbs initially, you know, were meant to be raw and you were supposed to cook them. And this is definitely the convenient modernization of that, which is wonderful and can reach so many more people. But they are, you know, super convenient, and everything's like in a packet or canister nowadays. And so, yeah, you could, you know, have an empty water bottle and bring it around with you and just fill it with the water as you go. But yeah, there's something about that fresh effect and that synergistic effect of the herbs. So
yeah. Really cool. Thank you. Can you talk about melatonin a little bit? The specific question is, for someone who takes melatonin every night to sleep, will this help?
Okay. I'm gonna keep this as short as possible.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a whole other webinar we could do. So
yeah, I know. Thank you for that idea, whoever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so melatonin is absolutely something that your body needs to produce properly in order to have good sleep. However, only about half of the population responds properly to melatonin supplementation. And of that half of the population who it's working well for, it will not necessarily work well for long term, because with some people, your body is seeing that you're taking in the melatonin, and then it's not going to produce it in the same way that it would. It's not as potent as like testosterone supplementation, where if you take testosterone, your body's like, oh, I don't need to produce this. But there is a low grade effect with that and melatonin. And so a lot of people will have a symptom of feeling more groggy. So you really have to play with the dose. There's not a standard dose for everybody. There might be on a bottle, but everyone responds so differently to it because it does affect your endocrine system. It does change your hormones. You know, that's what you're introducing into your body. So I've taken melatonin before. I've had some success with it. I personally didn't want to be on it long term. It's not something I like to recommend for my patients long term, only because it doesn't address, well, why isn't your body producing the proper amount of melatonin? I would rather do something a little more natural that is going to help put someone in a state where their body's going to produce the proper amounts of hormones rather than introducing one into the body.
Awesome. And then I think the last question I have is, do patients or do consumers need to take more than one packet? So I think everyone's answer to this is going to be a little different, but I think just because Chinese medicine affects everyone so differently, I'm a minimalist, so I always would start with like the minimum amount, and then if I felt like I needed to like ramp up, I might take a second dose. But I would do, I think like the canister says take one dose about an hour before bedtime, and then another dose during the day if needed. So that's where I would start, and then for more, I would go see an acupuncturist.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I will also say that, you know, we'll go back to the runner analogy. If you want to be someone who's a great endurance athlete, you're not going to start on your first day of training being like, I'm running a marathon today, and you're going to wind up with injuries and feeling awful and never do it again. So starting slow and working your way up, because part of the process with Chinese medicine is learning your body and seeing how your body responds to it. And it's not supposed to be a tidal wave. It's supposed to be something that's sustainable. So
yeah, totally. Okay, awesome. And then I think that's it. So Nell, thank you again so much for this. And Nell is on Instagram at Be Well with Dr. Nell. So definitely follow her and keep an eye out for health and wellness tips. And she'll have a new business page coming soon. She's also, I think I mentioned earlier, she's in Beverly Hills. So if you're in Southern California and you are looking for an acupuncturist, definitely look her up. And if you need her contact information, just leave us a comment on the Facebook Live and we'll respond to it. So any other questions that you guys have that we can't get to live, please reach out to us. Either leave a comment on the Facebook Live or send us an email. You can email me. I'm Tracy at mydellabs.com. And you can also email hello@mydellabs.com, and we'll definitely keep in touch. So thanks again. And Nell, is there anything else you want to say before we log off?
Thank you guys so much. This was amazing to come and talk to you tonight. And yeah, follow Dell Labs, follow me. And yeah, that new business page is coming soon. So
awesome. Thank you.
Bye.